of our tier 3 subscribers are called Jason.
Not surprised. It's a good name.
It may be a good game, but that could be overdoing it, you guys. So I'm feeling slightly taken over by Jasons, but it's not a problem. It's all good. So hey everybody, welcome. We're here with Jason, one of the Jasons. 3 out of 4, as we just said, of our tier 3 subscribers are called Jason. Just going to do a quick pre-frame and setup of the stream. Then we're going to go into Jason's Meet the Mentor session. He's going to have at least 20 minutes, longer if no second person turns up. Second people, if you want to turn up, then you've got the Zoom link as tier 3 subscribers. Just come and join us. That would be awesome. What to tell you? I want to tell you just a few things at the beginning of the stream, then I'll tell you them again at the end of the stream. So the next Meet the Mentor stream is going to be a little bit further down the line. Let's see if we can find it. Episode 4, Thursday the 2nd of August, 6 p.m. So that is 2 days later and 1 hour later than this next week, because I'm going to be in the States next week. So, so that's that. The next event, full stop, is going to be tomorrow at 4 p.m, so an hour earlier than this tomorrow, where Sam and I are going to continue to visualize flying Dalek lasers, because that's how we roll. Jason's here because he's a tier 3 subscriber, so it's you guys who get the one-to-one attention, and thank you, Jason. I really do massively appreciate it. I appreciate the game you're using seemingly exclusively to take the piss out of me. Slightly less, but actually I really love it. It's good fun. So I'm kidding.
Good motivation.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you everybody for being here. And Perceptual, you and Danbio, and you, Teravice, you're all mad. You're all here on every stream. I'm trying to put you guys off. It's not working, but I'm sure I'll get there in the end. All right, Teravice, what do you have for us today?
Not as much as I would have liked to have made as far as progress. I actually have a little thorn in my side with a null reference exception. Maybe I can get you to see that here.
Yeah, let's see if we can spot the null reference exception for you.
Okay. So, so far, I mean, everything's working pretty good. I got the leg balance and everything. I guess I'll just show it to you.
When did you capture this?
Wish me luck. This feels bad.
God, that
So at this point, I guess I can go ahead and mute it. At this point, I can just no reference exception here, and
so something's being destroyed and you're still trying to access it. Let's take a look in detail. So it looks like we start from Ben move line 75. It can be a 1 or 2 font size is smaller than that if you want. Okay, that's cool. So we're looking for things like you destroying an object. Probably I would do a search across the solution for destroy at the moment, actually.
okay, I know exactly where it is, but we'll go ahead and throw it to.
Oh, you know where it is. Yeah, level, reset, destroy current Ben. So where do you actually do your destroys?
Over here.
Destroy current Ben, which is a.
So the current Ben is the. Actually, I'll walk you through this. What I was doing is I was having a hard time with the null reference, and I was experimenting with, okay, well, I can't destroy the object and instantiate a new prefab of the object without it trying to reference the same object. So I created a new empty object that had the script on it that destroyed the current player, and then instantiated a new prefab of the player, and then went back and grabbed all the references again. So it grabs the current bin, which is the bin on the screen, and then it's got the prefab, and it calls from my bin move script, destroy current bin, and it'll destroy the current bin that it's assigned, and then it will say attempt +1, and then it will create a new bin. And the new bin is the bin prefab, and then it will set the current bin to the new tagged object player, which will be bin.
Yeah, by the way, so just a piece of feedback right away there may help you. Instantiate here is returning a value, and that value is the game object. So if you were to go var new ben equals instantiate ben prefab in front of that, var new ben equals, you'll see that what you get back in that new ben is instantiate actually returns. You don't need another new, just drop the second new. Now, if you hover over the new ben, you'll see it's of type game object, probably, and there you go. And so that is that's an easier handle to it, by the way.
Okay, so this should be var bin new bin, or should it be var new bin?
No, I'm calling it new ben just because that's just the variable name I've given it. You can call it current ben if you want, but you can call it whatever you like. But this is the new ben prefab you've just instantiated into this new ben variable here.
So then I could say current bin equals new bin.
You could, or you could just use current bin. Why are you caching current bin? Where else do you use that in the?
Well, so the problem that I put myself into this corner where the script is, sorry, the bin move script when it starts on a week, where is it? It'll call this initialize find targets. And this is basically just a script to grab all of my, programmatically grab all of my game objects so that I can use them in the script. Mm-hmm. And so what ended up happening is I do them all by name. Mm-hmm. And I don't say that it's, I'm trying to say it's from current bin farm, because if I have the two instances of the prefab up on the screen and it's trying to grab farm, it's going to grab two farms. So I put myself into that corner when I started trying to get everything together this morning. I was like, oh, I really coded myself into a nasty corner here on this one, trying to be clever.
So it might, before we dive in too much more into the code, so the little tip there was when you instantiate, it returns the game object that has been instantiated. That's a slightly more reliable way of getting hold of the game object that was just instantiated than instantiating it and then finding something with a tag and then hoping that the prefab has the tag on it. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, just doing this little thing right here, the var new bin should be so much easier to
deal with, yeah. So therefore,
specify.
Or you could have just said current bin equals instead of, so I think you can, if the logic's right, then you don't need the current bin line, the line 30, you just need to say current bin equals instantiate bin prefab. Just overwrite the current bin, current squared bin, delete line 30. I kind of slightly hate and love how much of this is about me. It depends whether you want the only child or the ego-free spiritual being. There's none of that, so it's entirely the only child. Okay, so I love it. Yeah, cool. So that may help you a little bit. I don't think it'll solve your problem, but it'll help you conceptualize it. Mm-hmm. So back in the game, what we need to think about is life cycles. Before we look at the code too much, let's just look at the game again and think about, do you have any don't destroy on load objects, etc.? We want to think about the life cycle of the Ben game object and the life cycle of the level versus the life cycle of the game. I mean, we're covering this a lot in the two base Unity courses now. These things all have their natural life cycles and they want to be destroyed at the right times and created at the right times. Outside of the code almost, it's like, what needs to not destroy on load? Is anything not destroying on load at the moment, or is it all just in this one scene here?
Just this one scene for testing physics and code and whatnot. And once I'm pretty much almost done with that, and then I'll start messing around with the don't destroy on load and creating new levels and making sure it all jives together.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm just falling, and you're wanting to just why do you need to destroy the game object? Why don't you just reset my parameters? That's the other option.
I tried that, but because they are target joints, when I reset the object, all the target joints are lagging behind with physics, and then it forcefully turns the torso because of the other code, and then all of a sudden it starts the destroy bin.
Okay, so one good test would be that if you play the game and, or even without it playing, if you drop the prefab of me in the scene, does it give you what you want? Or do you have a bunch of modifications to the prefab that stop that working? Does that guy then work properly? You'll probably end up controlling two in parallel, which will be kind of funny as well. Only one of them's being controlled. Yep. No, and is the other one controllable as well? It's ridiculous.
It didn't look like it when I hovered over, because I have this collider on mouse over. It starts lerping towards my mouse position.
Yeah, that's cool. Good job. You've done an awesome job getting this where you've got it. The other thing I would be looking at is over here on the player Ben instance that's in the scene. So you delete the extra one. We were just messing around. So it looks like the prefab's set up pretty well. That's good. The other question would be, with the instance, what overrides does it have? If we look over in the inspector, what's different about this instance to the defaults? Because if you're going to re-instantiate me, we can't really afford to have any overrides on me there, if you see what I mean. So all the stuff in black, you're probably aware that the stuff in black is stuff that is different between this instance of that game object in this scene and the prefab. You know what I mean? So doing that, you've now, if you push apply, you should be. Why does it think that? So the positions, it's normal to see some overrides. There you go. Nones. I'm not sure why you're getting. What are those level resets? Are they actual, they scripts, they're classes? What are you trying to link to under level reset and SFX playback? What type of objects are they?
Just game objects.
They are game objects. And can you click on them and see what they're
referencing?
And can we click on them and see what they're referencing?
Sure.
So player Ben and then... Yeah, so from player Ben, what actual game objects are being referenced? If you click there. Okay, on the level, that's that level reset instance. Okay, so here's an issue. You've got a prefab linking to an instance, which is why it's showing as black and overriding the whole time. So your prefab is linking to the level reset instance, and then the level, it breaks that link to the level preset instance when you reinstantiate player Ben. Does that make sense?
Yes. So do I need to
link prefabs to prefabs, not prefabs to instances? So if you prefab level reset and this SFX and then link the prefab to prefab, you may be getting further. How are you guys doing, by the way, on the stream? Are you all very quiet? 32 of you watching Jason solve Ben null reference exceptions. How are we all doing? Welcome. Nice to have you here. And the second person who wants their mentoring session today is very welcome. It's probably going to be Bindi. Bindi, even if you think you haven't got anything to show, we'd love to see, stroke hear you, or one of the other two Jasons. You can dive on at any point now. I'll just be talking to Jason Marshall rather than other people. So have a look at that. See if you can link prefab to prefab and reapply. Okay.
That should do it. That might actually fix.
That might be it. So what I'm saying is, before we dive into the code, which is a bit harder to reason about, you always want to look at the inspector and go, what are the life cycles of objects here? What's linked to what? Because it almost overrides anything you can do in the code. The code operates within the context of how the editor is set up. And everything in the code is about context. The very word game object, all of these prefab links, all of that stuff is context sensitive to how it's configured in the editor. So that's why I always want to look at the editor first, because you can't fix it in the code if there's a problem in the editor.
So give it a shot.
I'm not going to be very active in the chat, guys, I'm afraid, while I'm talking to Jason, because this is Jason's time. So I'm not saying this will necessarily fix it. We're just trying to get to the hygiene factors first, right?
Okay, it's still there. Oops.
Okay. And what doesn't work? What is the missing reference now then?
So it's telling me it's Ben torso. Local Euler angles, Euler angles. And what I'm really seeing here happen actually is when I press play. I'll just go ahead.
I think it's the way you're trying to access these different joints of the body that are failing,
when I instantiate my new prefab, this find and assign targets is not reassigning my game objects.
Yep. So why I would have made those connections, and I still would make those asset links inside the inspector, not inside code, for two reasons. One is this. This is Unity's job to do this, what I call asset binding. So wherever you find yourself writing asset names in strings, in either Unity or Unreal, that is normally means you should probably be making that association in the editor, because that's its job. One of the primary game engines do a few things for us, and one of the major things they do is asset management. So let them do it. So I would switch over to a paradigm where those links are made in the editor. The same in Unreal.
Do that off the screen, because that will take
probably
a while.
Do that off the screen. So I think between those two things, that'll probably get you out of this, to be honest. So link prefabs to prefabs. Oh God, Sam. I don't know if Sam's watching. Hey, wrong players. Great to see you. Great to have you here. He's been waiting 10 minutes patiently to be a follower long enough to talk to us. Hopefully that process isn't too annoying. I think it makes sense though. Don't really want people in the chat who have like no idea what's going on. So Sam, this is Sam. His eyebrows have been reduced for the sake of this video so that they fit on the screen.
That's right.
So yeah, that's very kind of you, Jason.
He'll be the quest giver, and that will be up here.
Wish me luck. Feels bad.
Should be fun.
Wipe out fusion.
Just gonna do a handstand. That's good.
I'm having a lot of fun with it, just because it's taking a jab at you guys, and you're great and awesome with the humor there. But it's also having to come on each week and just show my code and have you guys go over it has been a real motivator.
Did the eyebrows do anything?
No, they're just animated for now.
Let's have a look. Sorry, I missed that.
They waggle.
Wish me luck. This feels bad.
I've just got to send my wife in for a second. Hang on. Let's see if I can get it, because that's just silly. She's going to love this.
Wipe out fusion.
Do a handstand. That's good.
That needs to go up a bit in volume.
Great, Jason. Great news. So are you purely doing this project as like a kata, as exercise, or is this gonna become the next big commercial game on the asset stores?
It's 100% just playing around, exercising. I was working with the first Meet the Mentors. I came on here with that 3D game. I was like, you know what, let's take a step back and do some 2D and play around. So I mean, if I can get it cleaned up, then sure. But
very commendable. Awesome. Really good to see. 2D is always a good place to start for anybody. And actually just being determined to get something done like this is where you really learn. There's the world of difference between kind of half doing a big project and completely doing a little project. And you'll learn a lot more from completely doing a little project. So I think that's awesome. So my wife's not here yet. I'm trying to get her to pop in. I would love to love her just to see this. Otherwise she could rewatch, but very funny. Very good. So how else are you getting on with your general Unity stroke coding journey? Have you tried Godot? Have you tried Unreal Engine? How are you feeling about Unity C#? What's your general position, Jason?
Well, the only other coding I've ever tried is Visual Basic for applications, so not a great coding language. And this is my first foray into any other language, so C# is certainly straightforward enough. There's a few bad habits that I have from self-taught VBA that are carrying over, but certainly straightening that out.
Do you want to show us one or two of those habits that you think, because they'd be great potential traps for others, and also I might be able to spot a few others for you?
Oh, sure. Well, the first one that took a while is is the way you laid things out, the preferred method, and I've kind of went through here and did that.
Yep, nice.
Magic numbers is definitely something that I never even thought of before.
Yeah.
So that definitely helped. There's a few things like the switch case in VBA is a bit different than it is in C#, where I can say, select case, if this equals that, then do this, and there's no break methods or anything. So I'm going from preferring switch cases to pretty much never using them. Yeah,
generally with the break in you don't need the this there. Do you know why you don't need this, by the way? Where I've
redundant.
Circled? Yeah, it's just redundant. This is this instance and game object, it is this instance of the game object. So, so that's redundant. That's cool. Excuse me, the word this again, but this is fine. This is looking, where I'm seeing two different casts like this. Talk us through why you're just not using the generic version of Git component, for example, here.
Sure. So originally I had it where it was, find library. Oops.
Come in, honey. Jason has been not just taking, so Jason is one of our tier 3 subscribers. This is Honey. Come and say hello, Honey.
Hi.
Honey.
Hello.
So there is also another 34 people watching the stream.
Okay.
So Jason has made a game. If you could just show my wife, then she probably will laugh. So.
Okay.
Wish me luck. This feels bad. Wipe out fusion. Okay, got to do that one again. I can't live that down.
He's a fan of all these recordings from me being an idiot on the trampoline. And have you seen Sam with his
I've seen the eyebrows,
reduced eyebrows? Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know what he's going to think of that. But anyway, so yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Jason.
That's great. Thanks, Jason.
Of course.
Sorry, you were talking about the casting before my lovely wife assistant arrived.
I was just playing with that because this is what I originally had, and then I got that null reference error, and I was looking online at other people's code, and this is what somebody suggested, so I tried it. And
okay.
My problem, but it worked. So.
Yeah, so the doing Google searches for things is a double-edged sword. Sometimes you get like a great Stack Overflow article with, years of descended wisdom, and sometimes you get a fairly new self-taught game developer just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what's going to stick. So it can be hard to know the difference, but there was a little bit of a clue in that statement. Awesome, cool, good job. So, do you want to review any more code? Give you another few minutes. I think that hopefully a second person will be coming on. We must convince either Bindi, Twitch, who are other tier 3 subscribers. Let's just bring up the list.
Jason Lee Dev,
Jason
Twitch
Lee Dev,
Dog, Bindi.
Yeah, you know better than I do. Here you go. These guys here. So we've got Bindi. Do you want to join in? Bindi, join this Zoom room. If you do, you can see the Zoom room number. Well, I've sent it to you on a whisper, and you can actually even see it at the top of the screen somewhere. But I can send it to you on another whisper if necessary.
Jump in and ask some questions.
What's that?
Who cares if you don't have code? Just jump in and ask some questions, you know?
Just jump in and ask some questions. Show us your project. Just share your dreams. Share your fears. Just don't share your medical conditions, and we are all good.
One of the things I was having a hard time with, and I kind of
magic number.
Hacked it. Yeah, I know. I hacked the weight of the legs. So what I have it set up so far where the foot has a different weight value, the calf has a different weight value, and the thigh has a different weight value. And when it's the offset from this axis of where the torso is, creates the amount of tilt that's going onto your torso. So it's forcing based off the actual weight. But I didn't want to use mass or anything because the torso is a kinematic object. The torso is a kinematic object.
Yeah. I think you've done great, by the way, to get this far.
I kind of fudged it. Like, see this? I put in here. I was like, he's gonna say magic number, but I didn't quite know how to get.
Well, it's a parameter. It's just a tipping threshold or something like that.
So this should go up the top then.
What's tip range value? Is that a threshold? Is that a parameter as well?
That yes. Once the torso hits 45 degrees one way or the other, then Ben's dead. Yeah.
So you may as well just I would rather than having two values, you may as well just have a single parameter that's called something like critical tilt or something like that. And then it's just 1 at the top. And you just reduce what you've currently got by 0.75%. So, by 0.75. So this, yeah, exactly. Call it something like...
Ooh, I can't because it's initialized here. All right.
So, if you take 75%, there's no point in having two parameters like this, one multiplied by a constant. If we take 45 times 0.75, we're going to get 33.75. So it's probably not that critical, call it 34. You could say, critical angle equals 34 or something. And then you don't even need the tip range value. You only need a single.
For when he's dead. Oops.
Yeah.
So this is what this is going to do is it's going to bring him into a different state where it's like, oh, I'm almost tipping, and then there's a different set of sound effects.
I'm with you. Yeah. Okay, so you do need that.
Actually, I can show you that. I can turn on the sprite renderer there. That will be that state.
Awesome.
That's good.
The face. Looking at, yeah.
Yes, that's a danger zone.
180 and 360 I'll let slide as magic numbers because they are like properties of a circle. But these things here you may want to configure out, especially as you're using that 15 probably in a couple of different places. But anyway, let's not keep talking about magic numbers. You've got the idea. Do you want to? Is there another class you want me to have a quick eyeball through to try and pick some other? The most valuable thing we can do at this stage is to pick general classes of issues. For example, why are you choosing to use public rather than serialized field in here?
In here, that's because this audio clip is going to be picked up through the inspector, where I just kind of throw all these audio clips based off the.
Yeah, but why not serialized field to make them visible in the inspector?
Sure, that's what you said last time, actually.
Yeah, so just be aware that in Unity what we've got is we've got public has two side effects. Firstly, it makes it available to other classes, and the other thing it does is it makes it visible in the inspector, in the editor. If serialized field, this annotation attribute, I think they call it in Unity, just has the effect of putting it in the editor. It does not make it visible or changeable by other classes. So that's definitely worth it. Great. Thank you very much for all the praise we're getting in the chat. That's really cool. Thank you, everybody who's been on the courses.
So I wanted to ask about this actually, now that I'm thinking about it, and I apologize for cutting you off. This is one of the ones where I would have used the switch case. Yep. And what I'm doing is I'm calling through the bin move script. I'll ask for ask for the play audio clip, and then I'll give it the source array number, and it will grab from the array itself. I was looking at some of the 2D arrays, but I wasn't sure how to do it because I need an array of these arrays. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like calling it by numbers, and I didn't know if an enum would be appropriate here. Like this is the almost lose array of sound
it's definitely indexable as an enum, but it could also just be a dictionary. Are you familiar with using the dictionary data structure?
Sure.
So let's think about it. What is the data here? Before we just prescribe a dictionary, what is the actual data? So you're trying to link what to what? So almost lose, etc. sounds like an enum, but it could be a dictionary to what would be on the other side of the dictionary. So the key would be this, and the value would be
the randomly generated seed. So say for instance, the array of sound clips would be, okay, say I have 6 lose sound clips or almost lose sound clips, and I want to play a sound clip. So I'll randomly generate an integer and choose from the array. But I want to call it from bin move so that when I get into the danger zone, i.e. 34 degrees off the center, then it says play a random clip from the almost lose array. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so definitely whenever you start indexing, like source array equals 1, source array equals 0, that smells very much of enums to me. So this is a balanced state or something, and use an enum for sure for that. The rest of this, you could switch on it, you can if on it, it doesn't really matter. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. If you switch, you've got to mess around with these break statements, and that's what ruins switches in C# for me. The only reason I still have some respect for switches is if you start writing code like if this, where you're comparing something to an integer, and then you're comparing, and so on. Say you've done that 3 or 4 times in your code, and when you read the code quickly, it's very easy to assume that every one of those if conditions is going to compare something in the same way, like a switch. But you are free to put any type of if condition you want in here. So the danger with a long if like this is that you've done some totally different logic maybe in this one. There's nothing to do with comparing source array. It's like if it's Wednesday and it's raining dogs, you're free to put that in there, and you're not going to see it at a glance. Whereas a switch statement won't allow you to do that. It'll only allow you to switch on a value. So that's the remaining value behind a switch as far as I'm concerned. The disadvantage to me is that this break business, if you leave a break out, you're going to get unpredictable behavior, and it adds more lines. So with this many, you could be using you could definitely be using a switch, but you could also be using a dictionary, because why write all the code to say reach into this thing by this key, which is at the moment an integer, could be an enum, could be a dictionary key, and return a value, which could be an array of sounds. So I would say dictionary is the thing to try here.
I think that makes sense.
All right. Yeah, exactly. So TwitchDog's saying the same thing. Array of arrays or dictionary. And because you want to both at the same time go two-dimensional, the different conditions, and then each one dimensioned out against all the possible sound clips, and you want to encode meaning, the fact you've got these things as comments means they want to end up in the code. You're trying to associate meaning. We want to lose the numbers behind the scenes. We don't care how the system represents them. I think that a dictionary solves both of those problems in one. So give it a go.
And that's better than an enum, because then we'd have a whole bunch of string references.
Enums do get away with the string references, because they basically map strings, but compiler safe strings down to integers. So it's a step better than you've got there, and they can easily be refactored and kept track of. But now you've still got to match those things in a switch statement to the data, and because this pattern can be done by a dictionary, the better underlying data structure is a dictionary, and you lose nearly all of the code. So have a go.
Definitely.
So you would, yeah, exactly. So have a go and see how that looks. Another general tip would be try not to pass nulls around where you can help it. It's unavoidable some of the time, but always think carefully, always take a breath whenever you're passing null around as a value, because somewhere you've got to handle that null. You've got to deal with null being null. You just want to catch nulls as early as possible. So having return null there might be required because you may need to, it's going to tell you need a return type. That's fine, but just make sure that the calling function deals with the possibility of it being null very quickly and very clearly. Don't let nulls spread around too far. Yeah, Twitch Dog saying you can cast an enum back to its integer position, but it's kludgy. Yeah, I do find that kludgy. The whole point of me of using an enum is that you prevent yourself from assigning numbers arbitrarily to meanings like almost there, etc. There's no sequence necessarily. If there's a strong sequence to things, get set, ready, go or whatever, then you could argue that an integer is okay there because it has a natural sequence. But if something doesn't have a natural sequence and you find yourself just assigning meanings to numbers, you definitely want an enum or maybe a dictionary. So, wicked. All right. Anything else, Jason, you want to have a look at?
No, I think, just based on this, I have a lot of work just to catch up on my inspector here, getting everything worked, and then I'll play around with my canvas.
Yeah, the big lesson would be do as much as you can declaratively in the inspector. The inspector tends to be declarative. It tends to be where you declare what you want to happen rather than mandating imperatively how it happens like you do in code. And if you can have a nice mix between declarative and imperative and know when you're doing each, it can be really pretty helpful. Do all your asset binding in the inspector because that's in the editor, that's what it's for. Remember to link prefabs to prefabs, not prefabs to instances. Otherwise, you'll get the problems you were getting.
Right.
Yeah, it's all good. Clear your warnings as you go. I'm noticing quite a few warnings. It's worth, warnings soon become errors. If there's a lot of warnings, then before you know where you are, they turn into errors. So get onto the warnings early. But your code's looking pretty good. It's up to you style-wise whether you bother with private in front of all the variables. We don't these days because by default they are private, and it's just the percentage of the total character length of this line, of any of these lines that is taken up by the word private is too high for me. So it becomes too much overhead. In a method, writing private is worth it, particularly when there's actually, I think in C#, without protected, there's actually 3 types of protection level. You've got private, you've got public, forget protected for a minute, that's there as well. But you've also got engine messages. Now these are things, are they private or are they public? If you go void start, is it private or public? Well, can you call it from one of your classes? Yes or no, void start. From outside, can you call start? On another class, you can't. It's private from that respect. But can the engine call it whenever it feels like it?
On start?
Yeah, we'll call it on start. So it's not either really private or public. It's kind of in no man's land, which is why I tend to put no access modifier just as a convention. So that you can immediately see these are messages, these are things that can be called by the engine. These are public methods that any of my code can call, and then these are privates that is only for this class, only to help it get what it does done. And then if you're ninja enough to be inheriting, then you've got protected, which means that this class and any of its descendants can access, but we don't need to worry about that. Cool. Continue to marry a coding style, Jason. We're still seeing a little bit of this stuff, which is not necessary. I mean, I know that SFX playback you may find a little bit hard to write without, but just drop the FNAX down into lowercase. It'll still look fine. And drop the underscore, I would say. And it will still be totally readable. Just be SFX playback like that. Probably somewhat. And if you think that, I think that looks just more consistent, and it stops you asking the question. It's all about having you the patterns of the code, allowing you to scan it quickly and get an idea what it does, which is cool because you can read it quicker, and if you can read it quicker, you can write into it quicker. But if we're going to do that, we need to make sure we also don't fool ourselves. So there can't be, if there are little like detailed differences there, and your brain's scanning the code and going, oh yeah, but that's just, then you've kind of lost confidence in the pattern of it. So it kind of little details that matter, that if you've got that attention to detail, you can look at it almost with your eyes blurred and see what the whole thing's doing. So, cool.
It should mean something that there's an underscore there at some point. It should be something different, if at all.
If the class is going to be called SFX playback, then yeah, I would probably just leave the underscore. I mean, it's hard with.
Well, I mean, I can change the class name. I just mean like when you have a naming convention,
you're naming things in a certain way to indicate that they are a certain thing. So I was just saying, if there's an underscore, then there needs to be a reason why there's an underscore.
Exactly, and as TwitchDog is saying, you're naming the SFX playback class should just be SFX playback, exactly as you've got in the variable name, but just with a capital S at the start. So that's the rename you probably want to do. You can rename the class now safely. It's C#. It's strictly typed. You can do it from anywhere, by the way. You could do it from just right wherever you see it. Just do it. Yep, and then, yeah, exactly. Boom. And then save all, remember, because that's going to impact a few different scripts. So that's looking better. That's cool. Yeah, now people sometimes complain, right? They go, why are we writing SFX playback, SFX playback? It doesn't sound right. It sounds weird. But the point is that the machine knows the difference because of the position of this token between the class and the variable. And you need to know the difference. You need to be able to read it, and then you're just following convention. You're just saying that variables have lowercase and classes are uppercase. And what else would you call it? Why would you give it a different name? I mean, Visual Studio even will suggest to you that you call it SFX playback. If you were to write that line, public SFX playback space, and you start typing, it'll suggest you call it that because it's the kind of most obvious thing to call it. So
I noticed that. I only changed these because the class names were so long. So.
Yeah, now that tells you something. Find and assign sounds like a method name to me.
It kind of is in between where it instantiates all these public game objects and then it finds them in the scene.
Okay, so you're going to do that in the inspector.
Right, and then I translate the target joints to the found game objects. So once I rip out all of these find assets, then I probably end up changing this to assign targets.
Okay, and then tell me about, yeah, but assign target still doesn't sound like a class name to me, right? So method names typically have a verb. Name to me. It's not a thing. Classes are things.
Okay. So I guess it would be.
So you're trying to say what it does rather than what it is.
Right.
So let's look at reset level on fail as a class, and then see, what are its public method? You can create a new Ben. You can iterate the attempt. Go down a little bit. It seems like it might just be audio dropping. Let me just check a few things. Ben, you can iterate the attempt. Go down a little bit. It seems like it might just be. Could be that. Doing things slightly differently. I'm going with a single machines, not my mics. I suspect it's just web congestion caused by Backblaze jumping on, so apologies for that, should have gone. Yep, okay. Cool, yeah, so have a think about your classes as well. You don't want to name them normally by what they do if you can help it, because like a classic class is a car, and then a car can do what its public methods say it can do, and the most basic car just has a throttle and a steering value.
Right.
So let the public methods tell you what it can do or what you can do to it, name it what it is, and then keep it state private. Yeah, so TwitchJoe's just confirming our naming convention there. Cool, good job, Jason. You're making great progress with it all. You've still got publics in here. I'm not sure why. You've got public variables in here for whatever reason. They, I think, are, I'm not sure even why they're there, to be honest. Where are they used through the class? Are they genuine instance variable candidates? The way to find out is double click on find library and see where it ends up being used in the code. If it's only in one place, you don't need it to be an instance variable, generally.
Well, I know find libraries all over the place.
Okay, cool. So it's probably a valid instance variable. It's what we call a cached reference. You know my header that we put in? It's a cached reference for readability. That's what that is. That whole section of cached references, but they should be private.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So they just should all be private. I don't think there's any reason they need to be public.
Even if they're accessing this script, they can be private?
Well, how are they being accessed in another script? They probably...
So that they're accessing this script from this script. So they're not being accessed from another script. So they can,
No,
they can
exactly.
still
So no,
be
that's
private,
fine.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're cache reference. They're just handles to those classes, all of which are slightly weirdly named, that you're just keeping a reference to because it's shorter than writing find object of type or find component, and it's potentially faster. The downside is if that thing gets destroyed or goes away, you're going to end up with a null reference. That's the downside of caching anything.
Which we've seen here.
which we see, yeah. But this is then for a different reason. That's because of the life cycle over in the inspector. Cool, good job. Coming together nicely.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, good. It's good. Really good kata or exercise for you, I would say. Is there a class we haven't seen yet that we can have a quick eyeball over, see if anybody can spot any naughties in it?
I mean, this one's super small.
Yep. Still got a public there, Ben move. Probably serialize that instead. Oh, here you go. Tell me about that. I'm seeing a naughty. In the chat, guys, what are we seeing as a naughty on the screen now? In line 9, there's something that would make me do this. What do you think it is, Jason, on line 9 that I would turn my British nose up at?
Possibly the static?
Yeah, so what is a static? What do you think that is? Really?
I don't even think I'm actually using this at all. I think that's left over from some Google paste where I was trying to do a raycast.
It does look like you're not using it, but it is public, so you could be. You see what I mean? So two lessons in one there. It's public, so you could be using it from anywhere. So I would probably do a search for query hit triggers across your solution. Double click, Control Shift F. Find it, which I think is find in solution. If it's not, then you have to find your there you go. Search that, boom, good to go, delete the line. But because it was public, it's like a perfect storm because something else could have been setting that value from the outside. It's just a global variable. Which, by the way, everybody, when we start teaching you ECS and the job system, your brains are going to be turned inside out. Because in object-oriented programming, we are trying to expose functions and public methods and hide data. We're trying to not have any global state. We're trying to pass things around by reference, not by value. And in ECS and job, opposite. All that's the opposite. Everything's data orientated. You copy data around by value to make it more local and available to the process that's working on it. You hide your functions and you expose your data. So sorry, there's no right or wrong, but if we're in an object-oriented paradigm, then we better be object-oriented. But understand it's not like some holy place where it's the best thing to do. It's just a choice, and let's just be consistent in that choice. But be ready to spin on a dime. And when we start doing ECS stuff, which Perceptual's doing already, we're going to be using global data, copying things around by value all over the place, so that multiple threads can work on the same, on similar stuff at the same time. Because the problem as soon as we go multi-threaded is that if two different brains are trying to work on a CPU, threads are trying to work on the same piece of data, there's all sorts of potential problems in that. You can do the English thing we're called deadlock, where it's like, oh no, you have the last piece of cake. No, sir, you have the last piece of cake. No, honestly, I'll wait for you. And then nobody gets anything done, right? So that's deadlock, where everyone's waiting on the other. You've got live lock, you've got race conditions, you've got all sorts of horrible things where the timing of different processes matters. And one of the solutions is to take copies of that data and work on your own copy. It shifts the problem elsewhere, but with the right framework, it can make life a lot easier. And this has basically come up, by the way, if you guys are interested. Are you interested, Jason?
Always. It might be out of my scope, but...
So this has come up basically because of this over time. So what's happened over time? I need a different thing. Drawing with straight lines is tricky. So over time, and then we just have this thing called speed. Okay, it's ropey. Always label your axes. What's happened to CPU has done roughly this. Got faster and faster and faster. Now, I don't know the exact shape of what memory has done, but what I do know is it's nowhere near kept up. So let's just call it this, RAM. What's happened, and in fact, I think it used to be the case that on this scale, RAM was faster than CPU. We could look this up on Google. But what really matters is these days, processing is much, much faster than going to main memory. Random access memory is not random. It can take up to 10,000 processor operations to go and get something from main memory. So because of that, data locality, having the data you need to work on right available on the chip inside the cache, not in RAM, which is slow compared to cache, very, very slow. Having it available right there to work on is important. If that means you need to copy it in order to do it, then often that's so be it. So memory speeds haven't kept up with Moore's law, and that's the fundamental reason why there's going to be a shift from object-orientated, where the data is spread out all over memory, but the objects are very easy for us as programmers to conceptualize, to saying, actually, we need to make the code a little bit less reusable, a little bit less friendly, but in order to get our data sitting right there on the chip, right next to the process that needs it. So that's kind of what's happening. Bryant, thank you very much. Bryant, tier 3. Wow, look at that. I must have accidentally added some value or something. Bryant, we'll see you on the next one. That is on the something of August, 2000, what decade are we in? 2017, 18? Wow. No, what decade
I haven't
are we
got a
in?
clue.
So look, let me just show you when the next one is. It is here. You're in the hands of professionals. Whatever will be is on August the 2nd at 6 p.m. That is in 1 week, 2 days and 1 hour's time from when this stream started. Cool. I would say here, Jason, that this is such a light, small class. You may not even need to cache bend move. All these extra lines, you could arguably just put that there and then put it again there. It's only copying the code twice. Some people say, oh, isn't this slow? Maybe it's slow, maybe it's not slow. Measure it in the performance profile. I'm not saying, it's neither here nor there. This is on the borderline. This is a good example of it doesn't really matter which. If you're going to continue to build this out, and start using this bend move cached reference a third time, then you probably want to cache the reference. Sure. If you're only using it once or twice, it may as well just, this line may as well just go here. But, you know, I'm not saying necessarily do it here, but that's just, this is right on the borderline. You could argue it back and forth all day.
Oh, it makes sense. I mean, some of the stuff that I was reading online about the performance issues, why is that? The performance issues are negligent when it comes to these small ones. I think people were saying you could slow down to 5 frames per second from trying to do this on update, but it's not being called on update.
It is being called on mouse enter though. So you're probably
but it's not on mouse over. So it's only
it's just on mouse enter. Yeah. So if it was on mouse over, you may want to consider it a little bit. Here's your problem, and here. Wicked. Okay, so Bryant, another tier 3 subscriber. Awesome. Thank you for the support, and we will help you. And yes, it will motivate you. And yes, we'd love to get you on and talk to you and see if we can help you out. Dive in on the next one. That would be awesome. Guys in the chat, have we got any questions? So we're going to keep Jason on until another person joins. But in the meanwhile, do you have any questions? Or comments or suggestions? We've got a lot of expert programmers here listening to me whittle on about my the ways that I look at things. So
I'll fiddle with it later.
Huh. Yeah. Computers, eh? Not sure how they work.
Yeah, I think I'm ready to hit the fan running on this one. I think.
Be careful, by the way, in what we did. If we did it live, we renamed the class SFX Playback. The process for renaming a class in Unity without breaking things, it just for people, and you might want to clip this, I know I've done it in lots, but is number 1, rename in Unity first. Then number 2, use the rename in C#. And then number 3, you need to do your save all in your Visual Studio. So that's and if you don't do it in that sequence, then you can end up with issues where you get missing script issues because it can no longer find a script of that name. So that's the sequence to do it in when you want to rename a script. So I'll just clip that myself just in case, but I don't have time to label up these clips. Wicked. All right. So I mean, we don't have to go on for the whole we don't have to go on for an hour and a half today. If there's not a second person, that's absolutely fine. They'll come when they're ready. Any other comments, questions, suggestions? You know what, though? The thing is that what tends to happen, the longer you stream, the more people come in. And as the time of day gets better, more and more people come in. So if you've got another project, Jason, you want to take a look at, or anything in any of the course material you want help with, or anything in a different engine you want help with, Godot, Unreal.
No, I haven't even touched Godot or Unreal. I mean, I got the course for Unreal, and I looked at it, but I decided to run with Unity first.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, while we wait to see if anybody else in the chat wants us to do anything else today, open question-wise, why don't we do a quick stretch? And Jason, you're welcome to join us if you want to inspire other people to get out of their chairs. You're willing to get up and do a stretch too?
Sure.
Look at that, this man's going to go far, he's got initiative. So I don't really care how you stretch, whatever's right for your body, but as I say, I often like to do the hands down thing like this, because anything that's the antithesis of how you've been sitting all day can be good. I tend to rock my back this way as I do it as well, just to try and move the vertebrae, so that can work well. The other thing I really like, but it's a bit subtle how you do it, is you put your hands above your head and then just do gentle circles. If you do it right and you relax the muscles in your upper back, you've got a good chance of actually just moving all of your vertebrae. Often one or two vertebrae get stuck, and this can, if you do it right and chill into it, that can get them all moving. That can work really well. It's also good just to get your body moving a little bit. Your legs, squats are hugely important, right? So one good hack from Tim Ferriss before you eat a meal is just to do some squats to get your GLUT4 receptors going. You can just stand here and squat. That can always be good. 100 air squats will do you good. Just 2 or 3 will be good. Star jumps, anything to get you moving. The other thing is watch your shoulder coming too far forward. Really reset your shoulder position. If you're sitting there on the keyboard, the computer, it's all a little bit asymmetric. Feel where that is. Instruct your brain to reset your shoulder. Arnold Schwarzenegger advocates standing against something like a door or a window for 5 minutes a day, just with your back completely straight like that, and your shoulders against the wall, to just feel what an upright posture feels like. So just give your body a little bit of time, guys. Maybe stretch your quads, maybe stand on one leg for a bit of balance, whatever you need to do. Just don't sit still for hours on end. That's all I would say. It's just what Jason and I have just done. And if you just do that every 40 minutes or hour or so, it's going to make a big difference in the long term.
Where do you stand on sitting on exercise balls instead of standing?
Yeah, anything like any posture that's moving. The only bad posture is the one that doesn't move, right? Ben promoting hypertension, yeah. Which bit, Dr. Robert, in it? How am I promoting hypertension? Which bit? I'm not sure I'm promoting hypertension. Well, you tell me. Why am I promoting hypertension? I don't want to be doing that. Maybe he doesn't like the idea of somebody sitting sedentary and then standing straight up and doing squats. I think that depends how fit you are, right? Entirely how conditioned you are. I think I agree that if you're overweight and out of condition, that you don't want to stand straight up from your chair and start doing heavy squats. But I also think you should be able to. So if you can't, I think you should get yourself fit enough that you can stand up. Because I'm pretty sure that our ancestors didn't, before the saber-toothed tiger jumped on us, I'm pretty sure they didn't say, hang on a minute, I've got to warm up and kind of limber up and get my heart rate ready. On the other hand, they died when they were in their very early years. So. Jump up and run 5K now. Yeah, it's for the under conditions, exactly. So that's why I always start all of these gentle stretch sessions with, do what's right for you and just be sympathetic to your own body. I totally understand that if you are carrying an extra bunch of kilos and standing up and doing squats when you've just been sitting there, it could be really bad for you. So I'm more interested in just the gentle movement stuff, just resetting your posture, making sure you remember how your body moves, gentle movement of your spine, all this sort of business. So. Yeah. All right, cool. Good luck wiring that up, Jason. That will be fun. I'm going to the States in a couple of days, so there's just 1 or 2 more days of streaming, just tomorrow actually, and then I'll be back a week on Wednesday. So a week tomorrow I'll be back.
Where in the States are you headed?
San Francisco to Udemy Live.
Ooh, it's gonna be hot there too.
Yeah, it will probably be pretty warm, but at least they've got air conditioning. Awesome. Guys, I'm going to start running the end of stream checklist, saying goodbye to everybody, and then I will look forward to the next one. 108 degrees. No, you could do without that. So the next stream on the channel is tomorrow. Let me just get the exact time up. Remember our events page. The events page only works properly on mobile, on desktop. So just to let you know that. The next stream will be tomorrow at 4 p.m, a couple of hours earlier than this, with Sam and I about Unreal Engine using only Blueprint, which is actually quite an enlightened way of using Unreal Engine. We have then got the next stream in this series is going to be number 4, 2nd of August, an hour earlier than this, I believe. No, at this time, 6 p.m. UK time. If you want to be on those, you need to be a tier 4 subscriber, tier 3 subscribers. Tier 4 doesn't even exist. You can upgrade, well, some people are saying you can upgrade an existing subscription on top of an Amazon Prime subscription, but there's a bit of debate as to how you can do that and whether you can do that in all countries. Remember to follow us if you're not already. Thanks for being here. You're all amazing. What else to say, Twitch Dog? Oh, I might as well just show them the homepage. Not Twitch Dog, Jason. I'm just going to show you the homepage. Just talk you through our homepage a little bit on Twitch. Do you want to stop sharing your screen, Jason? Is that okay?
Of course.
And then we'll just have the two of us and just the homepage here. So a little bit about us. You've got our courses on Udemy. You can click through here. The schedule should update itself. It's a little ugly, but it does the job. It's the best thing I can see so far. The best ever clip will be here. At the moment, it seems to be me messing around on the trampoline. My gear that I use to get the job done, the top 20 things going from cheapest to most expensive in general. It's not quite in perfect order down there. Some good stuff there. I only put good stuff on it. List of the existing subscribers to honor them. If they're tier 2 or above, they get linked to their Twitch pages directly, which is cool. You can actually subscribe to our calendars like this. You can subscribe to GameDev.tv/TwitchCal. It takes a little while to update, but it does mean you'll have a calendar layer that you can add on that will show you when the next streams are. Yeah. Thank you very much, Teravice, for this testimonial, for being a tier 3 sub. I really appreciate it. And now you can also donate to us on Streamlabs should you want to, but it's very clear that it's neither required nor expected to do that. But if you do, we'll use it to improve the channel. I don't think there's much else to say. Thank you once again for being here. And I'm glad, yeah, well done, Big Gamey. I'm glad it's your top clip. Do keep clipping. That really helps us index the content. And we will see you all on the next one. Thank you, Jason, for being here. Thank you for continuing to professionally take the piss out of us with the game. And I'll see you soon. Take care.